Emily Miller from the Washington Times is with us. Emily, how you doing?
I'm good, Cam. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on the program.
Oh, of course.
You know,
always a pleasure.
I know that you were writing occasionally about Second Amendment issues before you started your series, Emily Got Her Gun, but I have a feeling that as you were going through the process of becoming a legal gun owner in the District of Columbia, you started noticing, boy, there are a heck of a lot of interesting stories to write about when it comes to the right to keep and bear arms.
Actually, Cam, you give me way too much credit, as always. I have never written a story about the Second Amendment.
Really?
Right, before I start shooting in October. And suddenly, it's all I can focus on because it's become to me, I thought this was going to be, my series I've been doing in the Washington Times, Getting a Legal Handgun in D.C., was about the gun. And as I've been going through this, it just becomes about my rights and about freedom, which I don't have in the city, I've decided. But
right.
As I see it being, the Second Amendment being trounced upon by the Obama administration in other ways, in other states, in federal laws, it just astounds me. And there's just this, I just, it's new to me. And so maybe this stuff is just more shocking to me than it is to you, who's lived with this and talked about this for years and know it so well. But it just astounds me. And like this latest thing, you talked about last night, and I wrote about, is so President Obama in his new budget comes out with this idea, where what he does is he deletes the Cornyn Amendment. The Cornyn Amendment was done in October by Senator John Cornyn, great American. When completely supported by liberal Democrats as well. I mean, Barbara Mikulski, my home state of Maryland, probably one of the most liberal senators in the Senate, supported this amendment from Senator Cornyn, which basically prevented any kind of gun walking in the Fast and Furious operation-style gun walking, in which the federal agents were out of control and didn't know where their guns had gone, from happening again. Mm-hmm. Or any federal funds to be used in these kinds of operations. I mean, it seems sort of a common sense thing that probably should be law already, but wasn't. So Cornyn had it passed. President and Senator Mikulski stood up on the floor and said, "This is really important, and I wanted you to get answers. All of you in Congress who want answers from Eric Holder, all of this." The president signed it into law in the quote called minibus, the small appropriations bill in December. It's law. Well, buried in the fine print of his new budget, which just came out on Monday, it's bracketed. And in Washington speak, bracketed means deleted, and it's recommended for deletion. It is literally just exactly the Cornyn Amendment, which would prevent another gun-walking operation like Fast and Furious from happening again. And I heard about this, and I thought it can't be true. It just doesn't make any sense. There's no rational thing. I went through the budget for the Justice Department where this provision was said no funds can be used by the Justice Department, ATF, or any of those agencies. It's been suggested, and I found that in the budget it's been suggested to be removed by the Obama administration in their budget. And I still was in disbelief. So I looked at the original law, the public law, and it's definitely the same provision. I called Senator Cornyn's office, and he was, obviously fit to be tied over this.
Right.
And said, this is obviously, and sarcastically speaking, of course, he said, this is, President Obama seems to have so much faith in Eric Holder to never have one of these mistakes again. He just doesn't think this needs to be law, so let's just overturn this law. And then I talked to Daryl Issa, who, as you well know and cover every day, has been ardently following this scandal and trying to get answers from the Justice Department. And he said he just can't understand. He was just perplexed. Like, why would the president go to this extent to overturn current law over something that's so obviously a mistake? And really the only thing I can come up with in all of this is the president and his cohorts, Eric Holder and the other justices, are so sure that they did nothing wrong. That provision from Senator Cornyn makes it sound like they could do something differently because they did nothing wrong.
Yeah. Talking with Emily Miller from the Washington Times. And, Emily, when this got deleted, again, the Obama administration has said time and again, they're not anti-gun. They've tried to portray themselves as, if not friends of the Second Amendment, at least Second Amendment neutral. And yet, as you talk about, this was such an innocuous provision. Why go through this voluminous spending bill and target that particular line for deletion, unless the arrogance of this administration is such that they want to, they don't even want this. I don't want to call it a slap on the wrist, but they don't even want this sanction about Fast and Furious.
I have to say, and as we just discussed, I am so new to the world of guns. I have now owned my first gun, or I should say, possessed my first gun. It's been 1 week that I've had a gun. So this is such a new world to me. But what I understand about it, about now that I am a gun owner, and what I had to go through in D.C., which is so outrageous to get a gun, $465 in 3 months, and I don't even know how many forms and classes, is that liberals do not want us to have guns. And from testifying to city council, from everything I've dealt with, they do not want law-abiding people to have guns. They do not believe that it is our right. The Second Amendment is it's just not. I don't understand how they can say I don't believe in the Second Amendment because it's right there in black and white. But
right.
It's just a disbelief, and they do not want us to have guns. And this administration, my belief is that, Wayne LaPierre gave a really powerful speech at CPAC last week, which I know you heard, in which he said, like you said, the Obama administration has been neutral, but they are going to start taking away your guns if reelected. They do not think that law-abiding citizens should have it. And I think this budget is a precursor for what you would see in the second Obama administration, because and this is not the only provision that they snuck into this budget. I mean, it's quite amazing, all the things, and this hasn't happened in previous years. This is his last budget. This is his last attempt to sway legislation. It's also his last attempt to reach out to his constituencies and say, I'm on your side. And that's what this Fast and Furious provision says. It says to the people out there, I'm on your side. I'm going to start taking away guns from law-abiding citizens. And also snuck into this budget tons of stuff, anti-gun people, anti-gun stuff, gun control things. One of them is a 30-year provision. I couldn't believe this. A 30-year provision has prevented actually the military from destroying M1 carbine or M1 Grand rifles,
right?
Which I've now learned, all new to me, that there's like a competition every year at Camp Perry, and people, big competition. They shoot them. These rifles are semi-automatic. They're not very, they're not dangerous. They're left over from World War II in Korea. Law-abiding people are not using them to kill people on the streets. They're not, so that these old, sort of great old rifles are not being destroyed. They resell them to the public who use them for maybe deer hunting, but most likely in competition and just collector's items. Well, Obama marks that to be deleted as well. So that if his budget goes through, which I would think it would never get through the Republican House, but were it to, his point is, I would like to have all these rifles be destroyed. Now, what is, like, another thing, like you said, like, why now? Why do that? Who cares? 30-year policy? And another thing he also marked in this budget to delete was the ban on the military destroying brass casings, used brass casings, which people buy, resell from the military and reuse. Personally, I haven't yet bought ammo because I live in D.C. and I can't get it.
I was going to say,
we
just had a question actually from Marshall on Twitter asking, has Emily gotten any bullets yet?
Well, tell him I talked to the registry office today because I started asking how to transport my gun tomorrow because I'm going to shoot it for the first time.
Yeah.
And I asked them about ammunition, and they said, well, obviously you can't buy it in D.C. Then, I'll tell you, Cam, I'm going to sidetrack on Obama for a second because this is hilarious. They tell me that I can go to Virginia and buy my ammunition. And I said, well, what if I'm going to buy the ammunition in one store, like, say, Walmart, and then going to a shooting range? Because, I don't necessarily buy the ammo at the shooting range. And they said, well, then you need to take 2 trips. You need to, because I can't, this is the D.C. Registry Office. I can't take my gun in my car if I'm going to buy ammo. I can only take it in my car if I'm going to the shooting range. So they want me to drive my car to Virginia, go to Walmart, buy my 9mm, then come home, then pick up my gun, and then go to the shooting range.
Wow.
I mean, Kim, I don't even know how they make up this stuff. So, and then I said, well, what if I have to, like, can't I just stop at the store and buy the ammo and then go to the shooting range? And they said no, because then it's illegal in Virginia to leave your gun in the car.
Right.
And I said, I didn't think that's true, but either way, I said, okay, well, I wasn't going to leave it in the car. I was going to just take it in with me. And they said, that's illegal. It's illegal for you to take your gun in with you in Virginia. You live in Virginia. Is that illegal?
For you to take your gun into the store with you?
Right.
No.
In a locked box.
No.
To be precise, because it's in a locked box at this point.
No.
This is just how I just talked to them this afternoon.
I mean, see, this is now, again, I'm not an attorney, Emily, with you not, but again, you're not carrying it concealed.
No, because the thing is, it has to be in a locked box in my car. So if I carry a gun in a locked box from my car to Walmart and buy it, it doesn't matter, actually. I'm even saying this out loud, but it doesn't matter because D.C., if I get pulled over in D.C. and I'm not going to a shooting range, but instead going to Walmart to buy ammo, I've then broken the law. And it's a year in prison.
I'm so glad we're cracking down on people like you, Emily. I mean, really, this is,
Cam, get this.
Yeah.
I said to the officer.
It gets worse.
Officer Harper, what if, because, I mean, at this point, I sort of feel bad for these guys. I sort of feel bad, only sort of, because I've been doing this story, almost every week I write a new story since October.
Right.
They never stop saying stupid things to me. I always introduce myself by name. They know exactly who I am, and they continue to say the stupidest things. So I said, Officer, what happens if I need to stop for gas coming in or out of the city on the way to the shooting range? And he said, well, if you run out of gas, you should just pull over the side of the road and call someone to bring you gas. And I said, Officer Harper, wouldn't it be better if I have a gun and ammunition in my car, pulling over the side of the road in D.C. with it? Wouldn't it be better just to go to the gas station? He said, well, then that's up to you. You'd have to explain to the officer what you were doing if you get stopped.
Really?
Really. Oh, and then I said, what if I have to go to the bathroom between my house and leaving the D.C. limits? And he said, you should hold it.
Hold it, absolutely. Listen, gun owners will tell you, you just hold it through the entire state of New Jersey. I mean, really, you don't, seriously, I mean, you're laughing about this, but a very similar provision. Look, I'm telling you, a very similar provision exists in New Jersey. You are allowed to have your firearm in your car when you are going to and from the range or you are going to and from the gun store. If you stop anywhere, whether it's to get gas, to get a cup of coffee, or to take a potty break, you have violated New Jersey state law, and you could be looking at years in prison.
It's the same thing in D.C., and I'm laughing because this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If someone has taken the time, the $500, the months it takes, the classes to register their gun, they're not going to pull into a gas station and start shooting people. I'm not going to pull into the McDonald's restroom and start shooting people. I mean, it's the stupidest thing that they waste their time, their energy, and they've got 7 full-time officers in this office to tell people like me not to go to the bathroom. It's just, and the idea that I now have to drive twice outside of the city in order to get ammunition to shoot a gun.
Well,
but anyway, the good thing is I'm shooting my gun for the first time tomorrow, and I will buy the ammunition at Virginia Sharpshooter, small arms.
Well, congratulations, and enjoy your time at the range. We have had several folks say in both the talkbacks and on Twitter tonight that perhaps the answer is for you to move to Florida. I would say, Florida's lovely, but, Virginia is always an option for you, Emily.
Well, I'll tell you, Cam, always people tell me you should move, but I'm not moving. What I'm doing is changing the laws. I'm determined. And so I actually have another story up today at Washington Times, the 7 ways, well, this isn't the real title, but I call it the 7 ways that D.C. can make its gun laws less unconstitutional.
Less unconstitutional.
The city council is redoing the gun laws this month. And so I put this in my written testimony to them. These are the 7 ways, I called it, the 7 ways they could improve the D.C. registration process.
Right.
But, I'm determined I want to change the laws in D.C. I'm not moving. Maybe after I change the laws.
But
I'm not moving until things are different.
You are a woman on a mission. I like it. Emily, as always, glad you could be with us on the program. Have a great weekend, and I know we'll be talking to you again very soon.
Thanks, Cam. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Emily Miller from the Washington Times joining us here tonight on Cam and Company.